Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 49, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. The first one is Spinlaunch. Now Spinlaunch is a sustainable suborbital accelerator. It's tough to say. So it basically means it's a large drum with a vacuum in it. Inside that is an arm, as you can see, that spins around really quickly thanks to the vacuum. And on the outside of that arm is a projectile, and it flings it through a little tube at the side, 5,000 miles an hour up to 61 kilometers into space, whereupon it opens up and deploys a relatively traditional rocket motor to do its final deploying of satellite goodness. Clearly there's a lot of stuff going into space right now, and all of those launches use pretty much chemicals that are being burnt to get there, and also have quite a lot of unsustainable practices, bits of equipment, etc., and rocket motors. Obviously you've got things like Elon Musk and SpaceX trying to land things back on the ground. However, this takes it into an entire new place. So this is using a sustainable energy, so wind and solar, to fling that thing around and fly them into space. This is actually a Victorian idea, so it's really nice to see it actually sort of taking shape. So why is this in here? Well, they've actually done their first test, and that means it all went well, which it did. I think they're doing their test on a scale model, but it's still a third scale, so it's still a whacking great big thing. So that is awesome. So watch that space, quite literally. Australia in the news again, so there's quite a lot of work around laws and social media and those sorts of things, and this is no different. So this is Scott Morrison, Prime Minister, talking about a new proposed law that will basically ask social media platforms, companies, to reveal their users should somebody basically accuse anybody of defamation. So the way this will work is, or it's proposed to work, is if you write something on the internet, somebody finds that defamatory, they will go to the social media platform, they will go through a process. That process will then send you, the person who wrote the original post, for instance, an email to then say, please take it down. If you don't take it down, there is, I think, an appeals. If you don't do that, then it can go to court. And if the court case goes ahead, then the social media company is honor bound to then hand over your details to the company that, or whoever it is that is accusing you of defamation. So obviously this is to stop anonymous trolls just basically saying anything on the internet. The logic being this wouldn't be tolerated in real life. You can't just say what you want and then say you don't know who I am. People would know exactly who you are. So why should that be extended to the internet? Now, without going into too many details, I have personal experience of this, and actually it can also be used by companies to bully people into removing reviews, so they can essentially whitewash their reviews. So it works both ways. So it's quite interesting to see how that works. But I kind of agree with the direction, but it's not without its difficulties. If I'm ever having a night out with you and you ask me about that story, I might tell you about it one day. Shopping trolleys are in the news. So this is actually the Bayes Business School in London. Really fascinating study. Now there's been quite a lot of studies about if you're shopping when you're tired, you're more likely to buy more varied things. Likewise, if you're a gin drinker, you are more likely to have impulse buys on the internet. So this is a very interesting study about shopping trolleys, but in the same vein. So it turns out that if you have a shopping trolley with a horizontal bar across it, versus a set of vertical or parallel grips on it, you will spend on average 25% more with the side grips that are vertical. Now, why is this? So it turns out that your biceps and your triceps actually have quite an interesting link to what you think and what you spend. So when you are pushing a bar, it activates your triceps, which is linked to pushing things away. And when you are horizontal, it actually is linked to pulling things closer. Things you love, you pull closer. Things you want, you pull closer. And that actually seems to have some psychological effect on what you spend. And 25% more. So that's really interesting. So it'll get filed in that little note that of drinking and being sleepy, and also horizontal handles. There you go. So who knew? There's probably more and more of those things out there yet to be found. This is really fascinating. So this is a YouTuber I only know as Ivan, and what he's done is he's made his own. So what you can see at the bottom is the track that he's made, so he can play it with his sim racer, which he calls Assetto Corsa. So the way he's done this, he's done it all by getting on his bicycle, cycling around his local town. He's plotted a track, basically. He's cycled along his local town. He's done it 4 times. He's done it forwards and backwards, and twice with cameras pointing out either to the side, just to basically capture the footage on a GoPro. He's then used a piece of software called Reality Capture, which can turn those things essentially back into 3D models. So this is very similar to how Google Maps or Apple Maps will actually create all that 3D geometry. So he's then taken all that, removed the cars, and now he can drive around his local town as a racetrack. So that's pretty phenomenal. So as you see, it's photorealistic, it's pretty awesome. It's got all of the ups and downs and all that sort of stuff in there as well. So just thought that was really, really interesting. So imagine if you could then get your local town, you could have the F1, you could test all sorts of tracks around the world just by getting essentially the community to engage with this and try and do that. So there you go. There's also, if you do link to this video and you look at some of Ivan's other videos, he actually explains exactly how he did it as well, and it's absolutely fascinating, a mind-blowing amount of detail, but also a really good watch. So definitely go and do that. This is the rumour mill, so take this with a pinch of salt, but obviously there's been quite a lot of VR news of late, and AR headsets coming out, and we've known the Apple one has been in the mill, or at least rumoured, on and off for a while. So there are now more and more credible sources with rumours that Apple will announce the headset, augmented reality headset, in 2022, but it may not be available for a while after that. There are some details starting to be more solidly rumoured. We can't confirm any of these. However, it's probably going to be standalone. There were some rumours that it might be tethered to your phone and use the processor and technology in your phone. Apparently, your phone won't be powerful enough, so therefore it will have its own technology in it. It will also apparently also be able to work in AR and VR mode. So that basically means you can actually VR mode is you can see what it wants you to see without any distractions in the background, and AR mode you can look through to your surroundings and reality, and it can augment things into it. It's also not going to be cheap, apparently. Again, all of this is rumour, but it's getting more and more solid, and more reliable sources are confirming the same details. So apparently it might cost up to and over $3,000. So watch out for that. It's a little bit like the original iPhone. It was announced a long time before it was actually available. So watch this space. The Ameca human-like robot. Now, when you call robots things like friend or Ameca and all those sorts of things, you know you should be worried. However, this isn't as scary as it actually looks, but it did have the internet getting into a little bit of a tiz. So this is a company called Engineering Arts. Now, they're actually based in Falmouth in Cornwall in the UK, which is great. I used to live just down the road from them. So this is a robot. This is the latest iteration of their humanoid robot. It really is more of a showpiece than it is for anything else, but they do have a robotics platform and an AI platform underneath this, but it's more for kind of show and for interactions with an AI. So you can ask it questions, but it's really a separate AI, and this is really just the vessel to engage in humans. But the sort of facial expressions and articulation of the hands and things like that is actually pretty cool. So it's a really cool video. Again, everybody on the internet was freaking out about it and saying this is the end again. But really, when you realise it hasn't really got any legs and can't really run after you, everything's fine. So if you do want to buy one of these, you can just send them an email. Likewise, if you want to hire it for your event, also available. There you go. And finally, which is hilarious, this is a traffic jam in Estonia. So this is in Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia. And these little robots, who are made by Starship Industry or Technologies, these were originally developed with NASA. And as you can see, these things have had a little bit of a problem because they've just run into a bit of a snow. So what's an inch of snow there. So obviously this, I don't know whether this says more about the actual wheels on these things, or does it say much about clearing the pavements in Estonia? However, this has been working quite successfully for a number of years with snow on the ground, and all of a sudden there's just a traffic jam on this one little pavement. So if you didn't know what these are last mile delivery robots. So there's a huge amount of energy actually gets spent on the last mile of delivery. So that's you can have a huge warehouse that can get parcels and deliveries to your area, but it's getting them on that last mile that's the tricky bit. So you may have seen these before, however you probably haven't seen them in a traffic jam in the snow in Estonia, but now you have. There you go. Hopefully that was useful, hopefully that was interesting, and hopefully I'll see you next week.